Have you heard of a watch brand called the Electricianz? Electrician with a Z on the end of it. I'd seen it a couple of times. And it stuck with me because their designs are really interesting. They're really fun, they're very industrial. And what really stuck with me is when I saw the backlight. When you activate the backlight of these watches, something rather special happens. In fact, they even describe themselves as an electrical phenomenon. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. I'm talking about another really fun, interesting, and somewhat industrial looking watch, something that has really captured my attention, so much so that I've sort of been on the hunt for one. I've finally been able to buy one, so I'm really excited to have one now in hand. So I'm going to show and share with you my first impressions of that watch. But firstly, I just want to quickly show you their website because you'll see why it has captured my attention, why it looks so interesting, and all the different variations of this style I have. There's a few different sort of configurations, a few different case colors, but the one that I already wanted was the one that I actually ended up with. And I'm so excited to share my initial impressions of this one with you because it's not something that you see very regularly. So today, just a first impressions video, just to show you what has really stood out to me. So let's flip the camera and let's do just that. So here we have a rather interesting watch. It's called the Electricianz Electrical Phenomenon. And this one is called the Stone Zed. The first thing that I sort of saw when I picked this one up was, that's interesting that the warranty card and the sort of information is actually inbuilt into the box. But when I first opened this box and actually saw this watch itself, there were 5 things that stood out to me. And the first one was the most surprising out of all of it. It was the quality of this watch. I bought this thinking it was going to be fun and interesting. I thought it was really cool and industrial looking, and I really wanted to have some time with it because it does look awesome, but I didn't expect it to be really well made. I hoped that it would be well made, but nowhere near as well made as it is. It's one of those watches, as you sort of look further and further and deeper into it, that you really notice that actually this is a really well-made watch. And that sort of leads me into the second thing that stood out to me, and that is the details. This watch, unlike a lot of my other watches, it seems to be the more you look at it, the more you stare at it, the more you look at different angles, the more you look closely at it, there is just so many intricate details of it. And that makes it more than just interesting. It actually makes it really, really interesting. And probably that leads me into one of my favorite things about this one so much, and that is the 3D aspects of this watch. I really like watches that have sort of some depth to the dials, some interest factors on the dials, levels on the dials, and this one, out of all of the watches I've ever experienced, has more of that going on. So that has something that has really stood out to me. Of course, the size of this watch really also stood out to me because it is huge. It is a very big watch, and I knew that when I bought it. So the size of it was definitely something that stood out, but it was kind of something that I was expecting. Something that I was also expecting that also stood out to me is the backlight. It's almost a bit of a showpiece of this watch, because as you turn this watch on, you'll see that thing glows like an arc reactor. I think that is something really rather special and a lot of fun. And when you look at it a little bit closer, you can see there's some special lights underneath, which then sort of goes through the materials that they've made and make the watch look very fun. But then when you look past the watch, I was actually a little bit surprised also about the bracelet because it is really nice and really well made. In fact, it's probably better than a lot of the sort of micro brand watches that I've experienced and even sort of mainstream brands. But unfortunately, it is a multi sort of universal link, so it doesn't fit in with the watch itself. Butterfly clasp there that is signed with Electricianz. And you've actually got quite a cool case back there as well. And when I said it's big, it really is a big watch. In fact, it's probably going to be pushing my boundaries or pushing past the boundaries of my wrist, my 17-centimeter wrist. But I kind of knew that when I bought it. And although I don't mind bigger watches, especially when they're sort of fun watches or interesting watches like this, there is a limit for me still. And this one may just be pushing past that limit. But to be honest, it doesn't bother me too much because I'm just actually going to really enjoy having such a fun watch in my collection. And of course, I'm going to be wearing this for a while to try and get some understanding of all those details because there is so many details with this one. So I'll be coming back to a full review. But now, as I have been doing recently and what I'm planning on doing continually from now on with these first impressions videos, I'm going to end by handing over to my wife and she can tell you what she thinks about this particular watch.
Thanks for watching, James. Now you're watching Amy. Well, this is a very impressive piece, folks. I like the blue dial insert on this very large watch. I like the light, that option that comes with it, and the intricacies with the copper wiring that you can see in terms of the insert there. Folks, this would definitely be a talking piece. Up next, check out some of these.